Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about what exactly do you need. That's what we are talking about. Now, why exactly I'm talking about? I have read way too many comments where it's like, which camera is right for me? And that's a very wrong question, simply because it's your money that is on the line, not mine. I'm not going to lose anything. The moment you ask any influencer, any YouTuber, or anyone else other than yourself is like which camera to buy, you're taking a very big risk with your own goddamn money. So you have to understand that. Another aspect of that is, given the fact of the cost involved here, it's a long-term investment. Nobody is gonna go like, you can buy one crappy mobile phone for one cycle. And how long is one cycle? Like 2 years for most people. But again, in camera cases, 5 years is easily expected. Some people can even stretch longer than that. So it's a long-term investment, meaning if you have a bad first investment into the system, you may even give up photography, especially if you are going into it as an enthusiast. So this is one of those things that you must understand. It's your money on the line and it's a long-term investment. Unless you are YOLO rich, you can do whatever you want, but most people have to suffer that consequences. And no one can tell you what exactly will suit you simply because you know your need. For example, even in archery, there is a very simple rule, like go and test the bow. Do not buy it based on someone else's recommendation, simply because they're like, it has 40 kilograms of pull force. You're like, yeah, I want the biggest one. Like, but again, here's the deal: you do not have the stamina to hold that puppy for long. You will be like wasted on that, and you will try archery and then you're like, my shoulder does not like it. So that's why, like, test it yourself. So same goes for here. It's like, what exactly do you need? Do you need something that is fun? Do you need something that is comfortable? Or do you need something that's like, I'm gonna work with it, I'm gonna struggle with it, but I want my goddamn result to be awesome? So you know yourself, so you have to understand that aspect. That's why you cannot ask anyone else. Now, first mistake people do is like selecting the camera before the lens. Lens is the first priority. You must select exactly the right lens before you buy the system, because if you do not pair up a good camera body with a good lens, the output will be surprisingly muddy, and so muddy. And I'm not saying that as in like putting down the crappy lens industry. I'm talking about like how good smartphone has become. Is like people will say, it's like, dude, my mobile phone can do better than this. It has happened to people, especially when they have like a really lame lenses with paired up with a good body. So be very mindful. Lens is first priority. Another aspect of that, it is expensive. Yes, it will shock you. It's like how expensive basically lenses are, because again, every time you are in YouTube sphere, most of the time people are talking about prices of the camera body. So you get that, like, oh, that's expensive. Lenses are on a whole different level. It's like, bro, you don't even come here. Like, there is a digits difference, meaning you have to add 10x to camera body lens body prices in order to reach to high level lenses. So be very mindful. Yes, it is expensive, and yes, it's first priority. And you may have a illusion where it's like, hey, I'm gonna buy third party lenses. While that is a good option, it's not available for all. For example, let's say you may be like, hey, I want to buy Canon EOS RP, but Canon red ring lenses, while awesome, they are so expensive, I cannot afford it. In those sort of you may think like, I'm gonna buy Tamron. Here's the Tamron does not make for this model system. Now you can buy adapter, but generally that is ill advised. Generally you're supposed to have now again, you can work with it and it is a viable option, but it's not something that you can rely on very thoroughly, especially with third party. Third party works horridly in this sort of scenario. So you may be like, hey, I'm gonna buy Sigma has just announced now that they're gonna release R mount lenses, well, by the end of this year. So get that point. Tamron has no such announcement. So you have to select the lens first, even if it's a third party one. Select it like, oh, this exact lens I think is well suited for me, and the price is something that I can afford. Availability is good enough. Weight is good enough. This is another aspect of it. Size and weight matters for use. Meaning, let's say you buy something and your shoot day basically only requires you to hold the camera up for 2 hours, or in sort of scenario where you are always using monopod, always using a tripod. Again, lens weight does not matter, but how would anybody else know? You will be the only one who knows that. So in those sort of scenarios, use that as a filter. It's like, hey, many times you will find that quality lenses from third party versus same quality lenses from first party lenses would be lighter, because again, Canon and Sony both generally work their ass off to make their lens light as possible. Consequence, it's much more expensive, meaning same lens from two manufacturers, you will find like almost $1,000 difference, meaning around 70,000 rupees plus and minus. So that is an issue that you must consider. It's like, what is the size of it, what is the weight of it? And many times, especially if you have to show up to a places, generally people prefer a huge lens. Again, it does not need to be heavy, but it has to look imposing. It's like, I'm big. Now it does help you to get a bit more money easily. Again, it does not mean your photography will be. It simply means people, when they look at a huge camera with a huge lens, they're like, that person is serious. It's a dumb psychological thing, but it is a psychological thing. And how do you select it? But thankfully we have the modern technology of online shopping, and most of them give you at least a 1 week window where you can return it. So do testing, spend some time with it. Again, if you are in a big city, you even have better options where you can just go and rent a lens, see how it works, and we figure out whether it's suited for you. That's awesome, use that. Again, you may be like, hey, that's spending some money just for temporarily. Again, if you can select precisely the right lens for you before you invest into it, you will be surprised how much enjoyment you get compared to someone who did this practical research. So this is one of those things that you must understand. And if you are using gimbals, pay attention to the lenses, simply because gimbals generally do not like lenses that extend too much. And again, generally they prefer lenses that have internal moving components, so center of gravity is kind of same. But if you have lens physically moving up and down, it can throw off the balance, or it will literally cause your battery drain too much if you are changing it too much. Gimbals are generally designed to manage it, counteract it, but you want it to be perfectly balanced, so it counteraction force is as little as possible. But let's say you zoomed in, the lens tube extended, that throw off the balance, and now the motor is working extra hard just to stabilize it. It's not a desirable factor. So you have to understand, do you use gimbal, yes or no? So that's why I'm saying select the goddamn lens, and I mean precisely. I'm gonna buy this lens with this. That's it. Select the lens first. Because many times you will like, hey, Canon EOS RP is awesome. While it is awesome, for the price to performance ratio is really good, but can you afford the red ring lenses that needs to go with it? That's another question. Now we come to photography. Well, I can just skip it simply because any camera after 2015 is more than good enough. Right now we are not in a position where it's like, oh, photographs are any problem. We cross that threshold. It's like photography, if you are having a hard time, if you are not enjoying the colors, something is wrong with you. Because again, if you have the raw file, you can, like, again, I can get that fact that JPEG engine on cameras may not be to your taste. You may be like, hey, I only like Nikon color. Again, good for you, but whenever you are saying Nikon color, Canon color, Fuji colors, all you are talking about is the JPEG engine on the camera itself. Once you have the raw, the JPEG engine is different. The JPEG engine is from Lightroom or whichever application you are utilizing, and that point you can change it to whatever you want. Some people have presets. Sometimes people will work their ass off just to create a perfect preset in their camera body, so out of the camera JPEG is also as amazing as they want, or as precisely as they want it. So at this point in time, talking about photo is pointless. If you know how to work with raw, you got it. However, video is new, and more people are jumping into this because people are expecting it. So if you are a photographer, people are like, you should be able to do video also. And in this sort of scenario, there is a new trend right now. 8-bit video files, while they are the primary source, you watching this video also is 8-bit, and most delivery formats, meaning if your video is going to Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, most of the video that customer is receiving on the other end generally would be 8-bit. However, when you are recording, this is okay kind of format. It's like, yeah, it's good, it's not bad, but it's like we can do better, especially if you want to push this puppy, meaning if you have the file and you want to color correct it a bit, or you want to change exposure a bit, you may find 8-bit may not be good enough. And especially if you are investing now, people will strongly urge you to go to 10-bit. 10-bit has much more color range where it can just like flex its muscle. And after 10-bit, you have to figure out the resolution of the video file, meaning video files are generally broken into, per frame is broken into two core contexts: luminance value and chroma value. Now luminance, because the human eye is sensitive to brightness and darkness much more than it is to colors, we generally store 100% of the black and white data, meaning luminance, how bright a pixel should be, that is stored properly, meaning no compromisation has been done to that. Awesome, that's lumen data. That's the first 4. Here's the problem with that. We figured out like you can store 444, which simply means store every goddamn thing, and that gives you most precise construction of real world image, and that's how all cinema files work. However, it is huge. I mean freaking huge, as in like few gigabytes per minute. So it's ludicrously huge. So generally mobile phones and low level mirrorless system generally use 420, and again 420 option is available in everything. It does have that black and white data, basically luminance data to perfect ratio, 100% data is there, but it throws away the color data. That's why like 2 means it only has 2 pixels instead of having basically 4 quadrant. Consequence, the color data is lost a lot. Now it's good enough if you are watching a small system, or if you are not doing any tampering with the video file, but the moment you start to tamper with, this will start to show that there is no sharpness, the color sharpness, the feel is not there. So generally 4:2 is used because it's a good compromise. Instead of complete YOLO versus completely compromised, this is a very good middle ground where original reconstruction is very close to real world. Like this is how it's supposed to be generally in this close enough, but this to this is like lol, other colors went lol. So this is one of those things you have to understand. 444 is awesome, but it is ludicrously heavy on your computer, and a computer as in like your hard drives. And 422 is a good compromise. It can do almost everything. 420 is generally to be avoided, especially while you are making the masters. Now, how do you compress this video file? That also comes to all I. If you are doing editing of any sort, I would urge you to buy a camera that can support proper all I. All I simply means is storing every file, every frame. Consequence, file size is huge. Benefit, editing is super easy because computer does not have to decompress, create a render a frame, then show you in the Premiere timeline. So all I is awesome. So if you have a camera that can do 10-bit, 422, all I, generally you will be good enough. At that point in time, if unless you are doing like cinema level work, you're good, you're sorted. You do not need to push beyond that. And then you will hear people talking about log files, cinema raw, Canon raw, Sony raw, LUT3, and this all that. All it does is basically changes how the video file is being created. Basically, sensor has YOLO amounts of data, but that data cannot be stored. It's like too huge, so it creates a sends through a pipeline. But if you can tamper the pipeline through log files, you get a lot more data into that pipeline. Consequence, it's tampered with, meaning it has to be deconstructed in order to be displayed properly. So if you see log files, you see it always looks like overexposed, very little color, because it's trying to store as much basically luminance value as possible. Benefit, dynamic range improves a lot, especially if you are shooting in let's say bright beaches. Generally people will prefer log files. Consequence, log files are not direct edit. You have to send it to, well, any sort of decorrection system, meaning Premiere. You can do that. Again, it's not amazing option, but you can do that. DaVinci Resolve is a really good tool for that, but you have to do extra work. Many people think they want to do that, and people are like, oh, this log file on that. Many times you may find it adds way too many steps. Again, if your client appreciates that, if your client pays for it, go YOLO on it. If the client is like, not really appreciating it, try not to use this, because again, your time is valuable. Then we come to the raw file. Again, everybody has that itch, I want the raw. But be mindful, it's very taxing on your hard disk. Meaning, even though RAWs are super easy for editing software, your computer has to have a pipeline that is fat enough. Meaning, normal mechanical hard drives cannot feed that. In old days, people used to have basically server racks. Just that was used to fed the data, and most of the time they were working on proxy files. Otherwise, it was too intensive. And nowadays you have to have good NVMe storage, which is like fat, as in like 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte. Then only you can handle raw files, and then that raw file has to be stored temporarily on RAM, so your RAM also has to be huge. Then your processor can, I got this. So be mindful. Is your computer capable of managing a raw? Most of the time, no. Most of the time, raw is something that looks good. It's good for experimentation, and it's really good if you are in a scenario where you have no control of the system, meaning lighting can change. You don't have time to set it up properly. Then you want to go raw, because again, that's the best case scenario. You can go with that, but be mindful, it is very taxing. Then we have some small issues like 30-minute limit. For most people, it's not an issue, but for me, it's an issue. Again, you can see what kind of work I do. I need 30 minutes, and many times people do time lapsing or long-term recording. In those scenarios, 30 minutes is just a no-go. That's like no. In those scenario, why is that 30 minutes exactly? Well, it's simply because there is a law in European Union that was there. It was removed 2 years ago, but again, only Sony have implemented it system-wide, meaning every new lenses I'm saying every camera new body that is released after that law change has no recording limit. One Canon has that, and one Nikon has that. But most of the cameras still have, like, I still don't get it why Fuji has that, but again, Fuji does not have very good ASICs. It does overheat a lot. So I do get that point, like why Fuji is not removing that 30-minute limits. Again, maybe some new models have that, but so far I have not found any. Then you have clean HDMI output. It may look like a gimmick, but sometimes people prefer clean HDMI output because that allows them to feed that data to like a external recorder, like Atmos Ninja. Benefit of that's saves the video file in basically Apple's ProRes format. Benefit, super easy to edit. You can just give that file, edit it, and also almost like a raw level. You can go YOLO on it, and it generally stores it in hard disks, which are generally much more capacity wise far more comfortable. And then you have to figure out backup also, because this is the one thing that separates pro level equipment from a basic equipment. Basic equipment has no way of storing backup files. You always want dual backup, meaning dual card slots. You have to have this. This is one of those things that if you don't have it, you're gonna learn why people buy it. And trust me, there are only two types of people in this world: who have suffered data loss or who's gonna suffer data loss. So trust me, you have to have a way of backing. But what if you bought a camera that does, or you cannot afford it? I get it. It's like, again, it's an expensive thing. You cannot afford it. Try to figure out a wireless setup that allows you to back up everything as quickly as possible. Meaning you're taking photos, it's going up to your mobile phone. Again, that's not as amazing, not as battery efficient, but it does work. And that also gives you another advantage, that in case your camera is stolen, you will have some backup. So that's the video side of the things. Now, what is the perfect answer for you? You have to change the mindset of like, this camera is for me. No, it's about balance. Meaning, is the right camera, right lens, light, flashlight or whatever extra you have to buy, is it right combination for me, right balance for me? Meaning, if you always use tripod and most of the things are static shots, you can buy as heavy lens as possible. Heck, you can buy third-party heavy lenses as long as it has good quality, because you're like, dude, I'm not carrying it. I'm just lugging it around from point A to point B. And yes, it would be nice if it is a lot lighter, but again, you can spend that money on buying more lenses, buying more cards, buying flashes, which can help you achieve something amazing. So in those sort of scenarios, you have to figure out, it's always a balancing act. Never it's like, buy this, forget about it. It's like always a balancing act, because people's total budget is always limited. And take your goddamn time to research. Many times people are like, I have this short list is these two things, and it will be like, let's say, Nikon Z series and Sony system. It's like, do you shoot video? If yes, buy Sony. If you know, buy Nikon. It's like that. Most of the time, that's how easy it is to figure out like what exactly do you need to buy. Because to be fair, there are many camera companies, but only two are doing well. That is Sony and Canon. So do your research and it will help you. Again, you may find, hey, you know what, I do not want to lug around big things. You may be like, you know what, Fuji is right for me. Go YOLO on it. Or you may be like, hey, you know what, I have the money, but I want a small and light compact system, buy Leica. Go YOLO on it. So it must suit you, and what exactly do you do? If it does not, it's just a waste. So be very mindful of that. And generally, because cameras are expensive and we are going through chip shortage, you may have the urge to buy an older model brand new. People generally do not recommend you to do that, and there are good reasons for that. It's like buying a old smartphone. You get that point. Like, you will never pay brand new prices for old model of smartphone. So don't do that for a camera also. Again, that's acceptable thing to do for lenses. That's quite awesome thing to do for lenses, but not for camera body. And pay attention to creature comfort. For example, if you are coming from a smartphone, pay attention, does the menu interface looks something similar that you can use? If it's not, you're gonna regret it. So be very mindful of it. Creature comforts matter. For example, does it have USB charging? It's a very small thing, but if you have a camera that does not have USB charging, I personally guarantee you, once in a lifetime you're gonna have a scenario where it's like, oh, I forgot the basically battery cradle, and you are hoping that the battery, either you have a spare battery that is fully charged and you have the primary battery that's fully charged, but life's a bitch. So you have to be very mindful. Creature comfort matters a lot, and it directly translates to how much joy you're gonna have in your work. If you do not take creature comfort seriously, you will regret it. Like, spend time. Can I use this equipment? Is it like, does it do everything? Like a small creature comfort of, like, let's say Sony A7 Mark IV, where you can just have a USB-C plug-in. It acts as a full HD 60 FPS video camera. That may be enough for people. You know what, shut up and take my money, because I do not want to buy a full-size HDMI cable. I do not want to buy a Elgato Stream Deck. I do not want to do extra setup. I just want plug and play, and that does matter. That means you can take up many calls. Like you are on a travels and you can just like, done. So it does matter. Creature comfort are not something that you can just ignore. Does it have good wireless backup systems? Does it have GPS location? All those things are small little creature comfort, but does matter a lot. So spend time on that also. Like, again, it's up to you, and I guarantee it, more than half an hour you will be done. It's like exactly this. Especially if you start with lens, it's like, this lens I'm gonna buy, then most of the problem would be sorted. That's my guarantee. So this was my presentation on what exactly do you need. Hopefully this was helpful for you. You liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.